Daniel Rivers had never believed himself the vengeful type. A software engineer by trade and a calm, thoughtful man by nature, he'd always leaned into logic and reason, the kind of guy who solved problems with spreadsheets and peaceful conversation. But everything changed the day he found her second phone. It was a fluke, a misplaced gym bag, the smell of perfume that wasn't hers, and a cracked screen showing a name he didn't recognize. Nathan. The messages weren't subtle. They were raw, filled with urgency and longing. Worse yet, they painted a picture of his wife, Lena, he had never imagined. Bold, deceptive, capable of an entirely different life behind his back. Daniel didn't confront her, not at first. He simply stared at the screen, letting the truth ferment inside him like poison wine. He copied everything, every text, every video, every photo, all backed up to a private server she didn't know existed. Then he began watching her, quietly, carefully, pretending nothing had changed. Lena never noticed. Daniel knew two things from the start. One, he wasn't going to lash out in anger. Rage would only give her the upper hand. She could cry, spin the narrative, claim it was a mistake. Two, she had to feel everything, slowly, without even knowing it was him behind the curtain. So he started planning. Daniel was already the one who managed their finances, so he began separating them, subtly. He created a new LLC and funneled money into it. He rerouted auto deposits. He moved stock options into a trust under his sister's name. All legal, all invisible to someone not looking. Meanwhile, Lena kept living her double life. She went to book club twice a week. She worked late. She made jokes about their sex life to her friends. Daniel saw it all, thanks to a little spyware on her laptop. Every moment fed his quiet rage, and still he smiled at dinner, kissed her cheek, held her hand in public. 6 months later, Daniel booked a vacation. Just the two of them. A beautiful villa in Santorini, Greece. Lena lit up at the idea. She posted about it non-stop, a curated highlight reel of a perfect marriage. She even told Nathan that she had to endure the trip before they could finally move forward. Daniel read that message 3 times. She thought she was leaving him soon. Perfect. In Santorini, he was the dream husband. Romantic dinners, long walks, champagne in the hot tub under the stars. Lena began to believe in the image she was projecting. She even began softening toward him again. He could see it in her eyes. Doubt. Maybe she was wondering if she'd made a mistake. But it was too late. On the 3rd night, Daniel proposed a toast. To new beginnings, he said, lifting his glass. To honesty, she replied, smirking. They drank. 10 minutes later, she collapsed in their suite, groggy, confused, not quite unconscious. Just enough to disorient her. Daniel opened her suitcase, took out her burner phone, left it in the room, unlocked. Then, using her fingerprint, he messaged Nathan. Emergency. Need you in Santorini. Come now. When Lena woke up, Daniel was gone. So was her passport. So was all their money. At first, she assumed it was a prank, but then she realized the hotel staff no longer recognized her name. The reservation was gone. Her belongings were packed and sitting by the door. Daniel had checked her out. Panic set in. She went to the local police, but without ID or proof of who she was, and with no Greek language skills, she was stuck in a bureaucratic maze. Meanwhile, Nathan arrived. Daniel had arranged it beautifully. Nathan got off the plane to find a woman in total disarray, paranoid, accusing, and frantic. He tried to help at first, but when Lena started ranting about her missing husband, secret messages, and a stolen identity, it all sounded insane. Nathan left within 48 hours. Back in the U.S., Daniel filed for divorce, citing abandonment. He leaked the affair to her job's HR anonymously. He even mailed Nathan's wife, who Lena didn't know existed, a flash drive filled with screenshots and videos, just enough to destroy 2 homes. 3 months later, Lena returned home, broke, unemployed, alone. Daniel had sold the house. She went to her parents. They were disappointed but supportive, which was code for ashamed. And Daniel? He never blocked her number. He just never responded. The last message she ever sent him read, "You ruined me." He smiled when he read it, then deleted the entire thread. Daniel wasn't done. Not yet. The satisfaction from the initial blow had faded into something quieter, a hunger that hadn't been fed. It wasn't enough that Lena had lost her job, her lover, and her status. She needed to feel what he felt, helpless, humiliated, haunted by doubt. So he kept tabs on her, not through spyware anymore. That would be too obvious. Instead, he set up a series of fake online profiles. One was a friendly woman in a divorce recovery forum, another a supportive stranger on a mental health subreddit. Slowly, he became her invisible support system. He encouraged her to talk it out, vent online, overshare. She didn't know she was handing her emotions back to the man who broke her. Daniel also paid a private investigator to follow Nathan. He wanted to be sure that doors stayed closed. Turns out Nathan had gone crawling back to his wife after the Santorini stunt. They had a kid. 2, actually. His life was hanging by a thread. Daniel made sure the thread snapped. A short video clip, mailed anonymously to Nathan's office, was all it took. Infidelity didn't play well in the corporate world. 2 birds, 1 revenge. 6 more months passed. Lena had nearly rebuilt herself. She lived in a small but cozy apartment on the edge of the city, taught evening workshops on emotional resilience, and occasionally published essays under a pseudonym. People didn't ask about her past, and she didn't volunteer it. Even her parents had stopped sighing every time she came home. Daniel tried to move forward. Work, morning runs, a few dates here and there, though none of them ever stuck. Everything tasted like dust, as if the revenge he had so carefully crafted didn't just burn Lena's world. It scorched his too. And then they both got letters again, from Marcus. The final game begins. But this time, it wasn't subtle. Marcus had stepped out of the shadows. He published a manifesto on a site he called Truth as Art, a digital gallery of psychological destruction. A series of essays, anonymous but painfully specific, detailing the lives of 2 people. A woman who wrecked her marriage through betrayal, and a man who responded by turning her world into a labyrinth of loss. He included audio clips, ones Daniel recognized, private recordings from Santorini, old voicemails, even fragments of therapy sessions Lena thought had been deleted forever. And the internet did what it always does. It started to connect dots. A TikTok went viral. "I think I found the real couple behind the revenge story." Reddit threads exploded with speculation. A podcast host called it the most disturbing art project of the decade. Someone even showed up at Lena's workshop, phone camera half raised, pretending to take notes. Daniel's employer got wind of it. HR called him in. "No accusations," they said, "but this looks strange." His name hadn't been published, but it was only a matter of time. That was when they met again. Neutral ground. An old art gallery turned cafe in a quiet part of town. They sat at a table by the window. No touching, no apologies. Just two people bound by a shared ruin. "He wants to end it with us," Lena said. Her voice was steady, but her fingers trembled against the ceramic mug. Daniel nodded. "He wants an ending he can own, one where we self-destruct. But we don't have to give it to him." Silence. Then Daniel said something he'd never said before. "I'm sorry for all of it, not for what you did, not even for what I did, but for what we let him turn us into." Lena met his eyes, and for the first time in years she saw the man she had married, not the ghost, not the executioner, not the voyeur, just Daniel. They made a decision that night, not to go public, not to fight back, but to vanish, together, not as lovers, not as a couple, as survivors. They deleted their accounts, wiped their online presence. Lena changed her name again. Daniel sold his condo, left the company, and took a job across the country. They wrote a joint statement, anonymous, published it quietly on a tiny blog no one read, a warning to others, a final note. Revenge is a mirror. Eventually it reflects your own face. Marcus never got the explosion he wanted. He tried to escalate, leaking more. But without fresh blood, the public lost interest. His site died. The podcast moved on. The world, as always, found a new drama. Years later, in a coastal town where no one knew their history, Lena walked into a bookstore and saw a familiar silhouette near the poetry section. Daniel turned, smiled softly. She said nothing. He said nothing, but they walked out together, not as punishment, not as redemption, just peace. And for once it was enough.